Welcome back to Panda Audiobooks. You are listening to Pursuit of the Truth by a Jen, covering chapters 86 through 90. The tension in Han Mountain City has reached a boiling point. As the three ruling tribes prepare for their inevitable clash, Su Ming remains the calm center of the storm. His pills have become the most sought-after treasures in the city, but with great fame comes great danger. In this episode, Su Ming must navigate the deadly invitations of tribal elders and decide which side, if any, he will truly support. The mask is on, and the game of shadows continues. Chapter 86. Their homes they were reluctant to leave behind. Su Ming, you. The elder blurted out, yet when he saw the bloodshot look in Su Ming's eyes, the fatigue evident on his body, and his silent persistence, he could not continue speaking, because he could also feel the grave consequences Su Ming had paid for his persistence. In his eyes, Su Ming was now like a notched arrow, ready to be shot. That arrow let out a shocking, sharp presence. No one could stop him until he tasted blood. "Elder, I'm back," Su Ming whispered softly, just like he always did when he came back from the outskirts. The elder looked at Su Ming, and in his eyes, there was happiness, reluctance, hesitation, and a complicated look that Su Ming could not identify. "You want to fight for the tribe?" the elder asked quietly after a long while. Su Ming nodded his head. "Even if you may face death, are you still willing to?" the elder asked again after a moment of silence. "Everyone has to die eventually, and if I die protecting my own home, I will die without regrets." Su Ming voiced his thoughts in a calm voice. "Good. Su Ming, I won't stop you. Since this is your decision, then I will give you a chance to fight for the tribe." The elder closed his eyes as if he was hesitating. After a moment, he opened them abruptly, and there was a resolute look in his eyes. He knew within his heart that he could not stop Su Ming anymore. If he did, then who knew what sort of insane act this child would pull once again. When he saw the grave injuries on Su Ming's body, the elder's heart clenched painfully, but he also felt gratified. At that moment, the tribe members gathered in the square suddenly fell silent. Their gazes fell upon the people walking into the tribe. The tribe leader was walking in front, and behind him were the head of the guards and Shan Hen. Bei Ling and the other powerful berserkers in the 6th or 7th level of the blood solidification realm walked back with tired looks, fresh blood staining their bodies. When they left, their numbers had been greater, yet now, their numbers were reduced. Many of them also received injuries on their bodies. Bei Ling's face was especially pale, and there was a huge amount of blood flowing out from his chest. Everyone held decapitated heads that were no longer bleeding in their hands. Their return sparked the tribe members' spirits, and they cheered. They quickly spread out, allowing these people to walk straight towards the elder. Bei Ling saw Su Ming, but his usual aloof and indifferent look was gone. He remained silent instead and followed behind his father. His jealousy was nothing compared to the survival of his tribe. If the tribe was gone, if his tribe members were dead, then what was there to be jealous about? The group of people walked towards the elder, and the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe spoke as he threw the two heads in his hands aside. "Elder, the scouts from Black Mountain Tribe have all been chased down and murdered. It should be safe outside now. We can start migrating." His words reeked of blood. The other people behind him also threw the heads in their hands aside. Murderous intent emanated from their bodies in the silence. Su Ming stood beside the elder and looked at the tribe leader and the others without a sound. He saw the fatigue on their bodies, the sorrow hidden underneath their killing intent, and their thirst for blood. It was not hard for him to imagine the tribe being ambushed for the first time by Black Mountain Tribe when they were getting ready to move. The battle must have been very difficult and grievous, causing the tribe to be unable to move. When the first battle ended, under the orders of the elder, these people were sent to kill all the scouts from Black Mountain Tribe. Only then could they safely migrate. After all, most of the members of the tribe were normal people, and there were quite a number of women and children as well. They had to protect them, because they were the hope and future of the tribe. The elder nodded his head and swept his gaze across all the members of the tribe. At that moment, no matter were they men or women, young or old, they were looking at him. Within their eyes were reliance and hope. "Fellow members," the elder said softly, His voice carried through the area and fell into the ears of the members of the tribe. We don't want to leave our homes. We don't want to leave this land, where we and our ancestors have lived for generations. We don't want to become dependent on Windstream Tribe. But for Dark Mountain Tribe to survive, we must do so. We have to live, and we will live. We will tell our descendants, and we must tell ourselves that someday, we can still return to this place. We can still create our own home. On that day, we will return the humiliation we felt this day several-fold back unto Black Mountain Tribe. I have the confidence, do you have it? The elder shouted out loudly. At that moment, all the tribe members let out long-suppressed amidst their sadness roars. Their howls shook the heavens. Perhaps the numbers in Dark Mountain Tribe were not big, but that roar was the strongest cry they had ever let out from within the depths of their soul. Someday, Dark Mountain Tribe will return, but now, we will migrate. The elder closed his eyes. He did not want anyone seeing the sadness within his eyes. He swung his arm, and immediately all the tribe members in Dark Mountain Tribe who had gathered together supported each other and slowly moved under the protection of the berserkers within the tribe. They left behind the land on which they had stayed for generations and migrated towards the unknown land located in the distance. The long line of people slowly left the tribe behind their backs. There were still wisps of smoke coming out from Dark Mountain Tribe. The ruins of their tribe exuded an air of desolation and sadness. Weeping sounds came from among the crowd. They belonged to the Lassus who had yet to grow up, women who were frightened, and all the members of Dark Mountain Tribe. The men in the tribe protected their families and held on to their bewildered children. As they wept, they silently walked forward. Some of the older Lassus held onto their parents' hands in fear and looked backwards, crying. They looked at the once familiar sight behind them, as if they wanted to carve that sight deep into the depths of their memories and turn it into an eternal memory. They were afraid they would forget, that they would forget the road back to their homes. Every single one of them could not help but turn back and look at the tribe they were leaving behind and at their home of the past. There was a wizened old man in the crowd. He was Nan Song. His face was calm, as if he had seen through everything that life could throw in his face. At that moment, he only had a simple bag slung across his back. He walked silently and unassumingly in the crowd. It was noon. The sun was not strong. The snow on the ground gave off a silver light that pierced their eyes, but no matter how strong that light was, it still could not stop them from looking back frequently and from experiencing the sadness as they left. Their home was getting farther and farther away. The outline of the tribe gradually became fainter. The tribesmen could now only see the faint wisps of black smoke rising into the air and the broken state of the tribe. Yet the times when the tribe was still beautiful were carved into their hearts. They would not forget. They could not find it within themselves to forget. Su Ming turned around. Every single detail about the tribe was also ingrained into his memories. The tribe contained his childhood, all the happy moments in his life, and his growth. He was familiar with every part of the tribe. He could not forget every single plot of land within the tribe. Everything within the tribe would remain forever in his head. Unless they absolutely needed to, no one would want to leave their homes. No one would be willing to leave behind their familiar homes and travel to the unfamiliar Windstream to be subjected to the fate of becoming an affiliated tribe. Yet, this was the only way. It was the only way for Dark Mountain Tribe to not perish and continue their line. The path to Windstream was long, very long. The road was uneven, but they had to continue walking down that path. The danger was not resolved. It was just the opposite. The true danger had just begun. They had the tribe protecting them previously, hence Dark Mountain Tribe was able to defend against Black Mountain Tribe's first wave of attack. Yet during the process of migration, the crowd was forced to travel in a long line. Most of the people were normal tribe members. They had no way of defending themselves against berserkers. This process of migration was bound to not be peaceful. Once Dark Mountain Tribe was defeated, what awaited them would be the death of all their berserkers. The men would all be massacred, including the male infants and the Lassus. As long as they were men, they would all die. The only ones who would survive were the women from Dark Mountain Tribe. They would be brought back to Black Mountain Tribe and become akin to objects. Their only use would be to give birth to Black Mountain Tribe's offspring and strengthen Black Mountain Tribe. They would have to live the rest of their days in humiliation. It was impossible to be fast when hundreds of people needed to migrate in one go. It was especially so since there was a large number of lassos and women in the crowd. Amidst the cold brought by winter, the sounds of their weeping gradually lessened, and silence replaced all sounds. They did not know where their future would lie. Perhaps Windstream was the only place they could go. Yet no one knew whether they would be able to make it alive to Windstream Tribe. They did not know how many of them would die, and how many of them would never be able to see their families again after this journey. There were quite a number of youngsters within the crowd that did not possess a berserker body. In the past, they rarely contributed to the tribe, and they spent most of their time playing and fooling around. Yet because they were the family members of berserkers who died in battle, no one would be bothered by their actions as long as they did not step out of bounds. Now, these dozens of youngsters looked around fearfully in the crowd, hoping and wishing desperately that they could reach Windstream in an instant. Surrounding the long trail of people were the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe. They quietly protected their tribe members with persistence even though they were tired. Sometimes they would go up and help the weak elderly folk. Walking right in front of the people was the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe. His face was firm as he treaded cautiously forward. There were a few berserkers behind him, and they all remained alert of their surroundings. It was the same by the flanks and the back of the crowd. The elder walked at the back. In his hands, he held the white bone cane and walked forward solemn and vigilant. Bei Ling held Chen Xin's hand as they moved silently on the right flank. His face was pale and the blood staining his chest had increased, but he did not mind. Lei Chen, Wu La, and the other berserker in the tribe were all surrounding their tribe members as they kept watch. The responsibilities for the head of the guards and Shan Hen were great as they guarded both sides of the flank and silently followed along. The head of the guards held a bow in his right hand. If there was any hint of movement, then he would draw his bow and shoot that very moment. Behind him, there was an old man who would occasionally look at the head of the guards calmly. Su Ming recognized that old man. He was Nan Song, the old man who guarded the herb storage. Shan Hen was indifferent, as usual. No one knew what he was thinking about. Sometimes, a complicated look would appear briefly in his narrowed eyes, but no one noticed it. Su Ming followed the crowd and listened to their cries, which slowly turned into silence. His heart clenched in pain. When he saw the looks of fear on those familiar faces, Su Ming fisted his hands. Protect the tribe. Fight for the tribe. Su Ming muttered. He was protecting the right flank. Shan Hen was walking not too far ahead of him. He did not choose that place. The elder assigned him to that position when they were moving. In Su Ming's arms was a girl about 5 to 6 years of age. That girl's name was Tong Tong. She was asleep, but there were tears staining her eyelashes. Her father had died in battle, and her mother done so the previous night. She was the only one left in her family. Mama. Papa. Pee-pee. As the girl slept, she trembled as if she was haunted by nightmares. As tears slid down her face, she clutched Su Ming's shirt. Su Ming knew that Pee-pee was the girl's pet. It was very cute, and she would always carry it around in her arms. Tong Tong, be good. Su Ming patted her back lightly as sadness appeared in his eyes. He felt as if he had just grown up in an instant. Chapter 87. Black Mountain Tribe's Pursuit. The northern wind moaned and lifted the snow from the ground. The snow swayed in the wind, as if having no roots and not knowing where it should go, just like the crowd walking through it. The Dark Mountain tribesmen slowly left the tribe that had served as their home for generations and moved forward quietly through the forest. Gradually, no one spoke anymore. Even the crying sounds of the children stopped soon. They were either placated by their parents, or chose to grit their teeth and turn their sorrows into determination and hate. Most of the hundreds of people within the tribe were normal people. There were also the old and the weak among them, hence they could not speed up their journey. The cold wind that blew past seemed to freeze their bones, and the thick snow underneath their feet further decreased their speed. The berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe remained alert in the midst of their sorrow, keeping watch over their tribe members. They did not dare to let down their guard because a fight to the death might occur at any moment. Once they died, then there would be no one who could protect their tribe members, leaving them completely defenseless to attacks. The girl in Su Ming's arms held tightly onto his shirt. The wind during winter might be cold, but what was colder were her dreams. Yet, perhaps Su Ming's warm embrace was enough, and the child gradually calmed down as if finding peace within her dreams. Nonetheless, tears continued escaping from the corners of her eyes. Su Ming hugged the child gently and moved forward, walking on the snow on the ground. His gaze traveled to his surroundings frequently, and when his gaze landed on the familiar faces belonging to his tribe members, he saw sadness and unwillingness, but at the same time, he also saw resolution and resolve. Su Ming gritted his teeth and hatred appeared in his eyes. He walked forward quietly and would sometimes support the weak elderly to help their shivering bodies travel faster in the snow. If we don't stop and walk continuously day and night, at this speed, we'll need at least 3 days before we reach Windstream Tribe. 3 days. I wonder how many of us will survive by the end. Su Ming's heart was bleeding. He was afraid, not for his own safety, but of how many familiar faces he would no longer be able to see 3 days later. Su Ming knew that if there were any other faster method to transfer their tribe members to Windstream Tribe, the elder would have used them. Yet although the dark python's speed was quick, it could not carry a large number of people in one go. Besides, the normal members of the tribe could not withstand the pressure of traveling in the sky. They would need several powerful berserkers at the level of the head of the guards to protect them if they did so. Yet once these powerful berserkers left, it would be practically impossible for the remaining people to survive. Mama. As Su Ming remained silent, the girl in his arms mumbled in her dreams and wrapped her arms tightly around Su Ming's neck, as if the moment she let go, she would lose her peace. Indeed, I was right to come back. Su Ming patted the child's back lightly. Time passed by slowly. When it was almost dusk, the migrating crowd from Dark Mountain Tribe had traveled a large distance away from their homes. They gritted their teeth and moved forward through the forest and the cold. Suddenly, from the back, a piercing whistle that shook the sky sounded. The moment the piercing whistle rang out, howls of excitement immediately followed after. At the same moment, the silhouettes of people dashed towards them from behind. Almost all the people in Dark Mountain Tribe were shocked. A cold glint appeared in the elder's eyes. The berserkers beside him, the head of the guards, and all the other berserkers looked murderous. Their tribe members trembled in fear as they were surrounded by the threat of death. They were afraid, and they cried, unable to help themselves. Things started to get a little chaotic. Those in the front and middle, remain in your positions. Continue protecting the tribe and move forward. All those protecting the rear, kill the enemies. The elder immediately gave a command. Su Ming gave the girl in his arms to a normal member of the tribe and was just about to move to the back when he heard the elder's words. He froze, then gritted his teeth and remained in his place, protecting his tribe as they left under the guidance of the tribe leader. Behind them, the elder and 7 other berserkers from his tribe stood like a wall that shielded them from their enemies. Whistling sounds echoed in the air, and 20-something berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe appeared from the forest behind them. When Su Ming saw so many berserkers appearing at once, his heart jolted. They only had 30-something berserkers in Dark Mountain Tribe. Yet Black Mountain Tribe managed to send out 20-something berserkers in one attack alone. It was a fact that was difficult for him to believe. Among these berserkers, most of them were around the 4th or 5th level of the blood solidification realm. However, there were 5 people who had reached the 6th level of the blood solidification realm, and another 3 who had reached the 7th level. There was no one in the 8th level in their team, but leading the charge were 2 men wearing black robes. These 2 men's clothes were completely different from the rest of Black Mountain Tribe, and they stood out. They also exuded a great and strong presence of qi that made Su Ming's pupils shrink. That power of qi had already surpassed the head of the guards, Shan Hen, and the tribe leader's qi. Their level of cultivation and the feeling of countless lives that had been slain in their hands showed that they were berserkers around the 10th level of the blood solidification realm. However, Su Ming could tell that the eyes of these 2 black-robed men were dull and lifeless, a clear sign that differentiated them from normal people. Yet their movements were agile. Under their leadership, the 20-something Black Mountain Tribe berserkers rushed towards the elder and the others with excitement and bloodlust. Strange cries were emitted from their lips, and when the sound traveled into the normal tribe members' ears, they trembled fearfully. "Go quickly!" The elder turned his head and said in a low voice, then turned back and moved towards the berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. With one swing of his arm, black wind appeared out of thin air and stirred around him, causing a large amount of snow from the area to be lifted before he rushed towards the 20-something berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. The two men's in the later stage of the blood solidification realm's target was clear. They did not look at anyone else. Instead, as their blood veins erupted in explosive power and let out piercing light, they rushed into the black wind and headed straight towards the elder as banging sounds echoed around them. From the other berserkers who were swept into the black wind, 7 to 8 of them immediately coughed out blood. Their bodies trembled and immediately collapsed, bursting apart into pieces of flesh and blood. A stench of blood instantly filled the air. The massacre started. Besides the elder, there were only 7 berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe protecting the rear. Resolution appeared on their faces, and they absolutely did not cower. Behind them were their tribe members and their families. They could not shrink back, they absolutely would not retreat. The 7 people lifted their heads and howled with sadness and determination before they rushed towards the dozens of berserkers charging towards them. They would do everything to hinder these people and buy time for their tribe members. Their level of cultivation was not high. The strongest among them was at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. Most of them were around the 5th level. Yet at that moment, there was an indescribable presence coming from them. That presence screamed out their desire to protect their homes and their tribe members. Even if they died, that will of theirs would never die. Even if their bones were crushed and their bodies turned to ashes, they would not allow their enemies to break through. This was the human wall made with their flesh and blood. This was the ravine created with their lives. This was the desperation created from their souls. This was their choice. Su Ming's eyes became red. He was not the only one. Most of the berserkers around him had become possessed by madness. Some of the normal tribe members had already started shouting. They wanted to fight. "Don't look. Your duty is to protect the tribe as we migrate. We have to leave." Just as Su Ming and the others were about to rush out and join the fray, the tribe leader spoke from where he was in the front. There was a determined look on his face, but underneath that determination was sadness. He was the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe. His duty was to help as many people from Dark Mountain Tribe to survive as he could, so that the tribe could continue existing. Su Ming clenched his fists. His eyes were bloodshot, but he had to quell his killing intent. He looked at those 7 tribe members hundreds of feet away from him, who were assaulted by dozens of screeching berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe that came like a tidal wave. When a thunderous sound reverberated in the area, Su Ming clearly saw one of his tribe members coughing out a mouthful of blood. His right arm exploded, and he staggered backward. Still, he stopped even though both of his legs had collapsed. He continued to cry out ferociously and banged his head into his bloodthirsty and excited enemy's head. He even opened his mouth and bit down on the dumbstruck enemy berserker's neck and tore out his flesh. His enemy let out a sharp and painful cry. The man from Black Mountain Tribe was terrified. His neck was bloody and torn, and screaming in pain, he punched the berserker's chest, causing him to cough out blood. Still, the man viciously bit deeper into his opponent's flesh. That cruel look on his face and his insane act made the man from Black Mountain Tribe's heart tremble. At that moment, the tribe member who swallowed the flesh turned his head abruptly and looked at the column that was getting farther away from him. He seemed to have seen Su Ming looking at him from the crowd. A warm smile appeared on his lips. He was a man in his 30s. In his eyes, Su Ming was still just a child. That smile was filled with the kindness of an adult towards a child. It was a completely different look compared to the vicious one he had before. Once that smile appeared, he turned back and closed his eyes. In that instant, all his blood veins exploded, which affected his entire body and caused it to explode in a bang. That violent bang turned into a sound that shook the sky. The moment the person's body exploded, terror appeared in the eyes of the man whose neck was torn. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. That was the self-triggered explosion of blood veins. That was the last cry made in their lives using every part of their flesh and blood. That voice told all their pursuers from Black Mountain Tribe that if they wanted to destroy Dark Mountain Tribe, they would have to pay a price they could not have imagined. Amidst the roaring, the man from Black Mountain Tribe coughed out a mouthful of blood. His arms had burst apart. He struggled, retreating. No will to fight remained in his body. His heart was trembling. He was afraid. Chapter 88. Who is the traitor? There were other members of Black Mountain Tribe who were also afraid. That sort of self-triggered explosion had happened 3 times within that short amount of time. From those 3 explosions alone, Black Mountain Tribe lost 7 men. Yet the battle still continued. Tears fell from Su Ming's eyes. He bit down on his lip and averted his gaze while running forward with his tribe members. He knew that his tribe members defending the rear were using their lives to buy time for them. They were using their flesh and blood to stall their enemies. What Su Ming needed to do at that moment was to not let their lives be sacrificed in vain. They had to protect the normal members of their tribe within this limited amount of time and go farther. The situation was just as intense at the elders' side. The 2 men in the later stage of the blood solidification realm seemed as if they did not know pain. Their faces were void of expression even though many parts of their bodies had sustained injuries. Even so, they continued pestering the elder. Yet the elder's true strength was unknown to most people, including Su Ming himself. The elder let out a cold huff, and numerous ripples appeared around them. The ripples rushed towards them, and the 2 men in the later stage of the blood solidification realm immediately trembled. The elder took one quick step forward and arrived before them within the span of a breath. He touched one of their heads with a finger, and with a bang, his head exploded. The moment his body fell, the elder swung his fist at the other person, and as a thunderous roar shook through the sky, the man's body also trembled and burst apart. Yet the moment the 2 men died, a large amount of black mist appeared from their corpses. The black mist gathered together in the blink of an eye and turned into the vague shape of a person that charged towards the retreating elder. By 2. The elder narrowed his eyes. He knew that the black mist was not Bai Tu's original body, but the result of a fallen berserker art. However, if this art was used, then it meant that Bai Tu was around the area, or perhaps, he was rushing towards this place. At that moment, a sharp cry suddenly came from ahead of the crowd. The sudden appearance of the sound immediately changed the expressions of the tribe leader, the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe, and all the other tribe members. From the 2 sides of the forest, the same sharp sound could be heard. A huge gust of wind bellowed, as if telling them that a large amount of their enemies from Black Mountain Tribe surrounded them. If that was the case, it would have been fine. They could leave behind the berserkers, and they would use their deaths in exchange for the tribe members to continue their migration. But the moment the shouts of excitement and bloodlust echoed around them, the ground trembled from hundreds of feet in front of the tribe leader. The earth sank down as the land shook, and it was quickly followed by a large amount of giant wood around thousands of feet in length and hundreds of feet in breadth suddenly shooting up from the ground like a giant door, completely blocking the tribe's path. On top of that giant wooden barricade stood 3 men from Black Mountain Tribe. The leader of the trio was dozens of feet tall. In his hands, he held a bow that was about his height and stared at the people below him with a cruel smile on his lips. At the same time, on both sides of the tribe, 2 large wooden barricades also appeared from the ground. The height of the barricades, which were around thousands of feet in length, completely trapped Dark Mountain Tribe within them. Several people also stood on top of the 2 wooden barricades on the sides. They looked down coldly at the people standing below them, and there was a teasing look in their eyes. This was a trap that had been set a long time ago. The expressions of everyone in Dark Mountain Tribe immediately changed. The tribe leader's face was pale, but his eyes were filled with shocking killing and battle intent. The other berserkers were the same. How did they know about our route? How did they manage to lay down this trap beforehand? Those were the questions that appeared in all their hearts at that moment. Who is it? Just who is the traitor of Dark Mountain Tribe? Su Ming trembled. In his mind, he recalled the elder once telling him that there was a traitor within their tribe. At the same time, the elder, who was fighting against the black mist formed by Bai Tu's fallen berserker art in the distance, also saw this scene. Sadness and anger appeared in his eyes. He had suspected that there was a traitor among them, and he used everything that he could to find him, but that person hid himself too well. No traces or hints could be found, as if the traitor had never existed. However, now, the elder was certain. Nonetheless, he still could not figure who the traitor was, and his motives for betraying the tribe. At that moment of danger, the people from Dark Mountain Tribe were filled with fear and panic. The normal members of the tribe were pale. Just as they thought they were powerless to fight back, whooshing sounds came from the tops of the 3 barricades, and more berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe appeared. There were about 50 or more people standing on top of the barricades. The elder raised his right hand and abruptly pointed towards the tribe in the distance. The moment he pointed towards them, the weather above the trapped Dark Mountain Tribe suddenly changed. The sky and the land trembled, and a black light that could pierce through heaven appeared. That light gathered together and turned into the astonishing statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain that was about hundreds of feet in size. It was a ferocious statue that was half man, half beast, and filled with the air of savagery since ancient times. It held a dragon in one hand, and in the other, a long spear. There was madness and bloodlust in its eyes. Its appearance immediately turned the sky dark, as if the weather itself was stifled by its mighty presence. However, the statue was not completely distinct in shape. It was slightly faded, as if it could not materialize completely within a short amount of time. Black light scattered from its body and enveloped the people below it, protecting all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe within. Berserkers of Calamity, go forth. The tribe members stay within. Fight till we breathe our last. At that moment, the tribe leader from Dark Mountain Tribe let out a long howl. He leapt upwards at the giant wooden barricade before him. He knew that if they wanted to leave this place, they had to destroy this barricade. Retreating was not an option. Kill them. All the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe dashed madly towards their enemies that were already charging at them. The head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe leapt forward with his bow in hand and drew it. With a thunderous cry, he fired an arrow towards the left barricade. 2 other berserkers followed behind the tribe leader as they too charged forward with resolution. Bei Ling, Wu La, Lei Chen, and the berserkers were all fueled with madness and fought with their lives at stake. Shan Hen fell silent and hesitated for a moment before he too went forward. Su Ming's heart was filled with killing intent. Just as he was about to move, he heard the sounds of weeping from behind him. The girl he had been carrying was jolted awake and was looking at him with tears falling from her eyes. Su Ming did not turn back. He bounded forward and leapt on the barricade before him. The dozens of berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe on the barricade let out strange cries as they charged towards Su Ming and the other berserkers by his side, engaging in battle of life and death. It was dusk. The sun in the sky was dim, and the moon was beginning to show itself, a clear sign that night was just around the corner. Su Ming's blood was boiling. His heart was burning, his anger roaring, and his eyes were bloodshot. He broke through the seal in Windstream and dashed madly back to the tribe for only one purpose: to live and die for the tribe. Now, the time had come. I was born a member of Dark Mountain, and I will die a member of Dark Mountain. Su Ming did not hesitate and let all 243 blood veins in his body burst forth with power, showing off his power as a 7th-level berserker in the blood solidification realm. However, there was only chaos in the battlefield. No one took note of his existence. Before him, there was one person who was in the 7th level of the blood solidification realm among the dozens of men from Dark Mountain Tribe. The others were all around the 5th or 6th level. The man in the 7th level originally had a vicious look on his face as he charged forward with his team. In his eyes, the 7 to 8 berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe were nothing. He was the vice chief of hunters in Black Mountain Tribe. Killing these people was the same as flicking his wrist. Yet the moment he approached them, his pupils shrank and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He could clearly feel a vast and powerful amount of qi that made his heart tremble coming from the frail-looking teenager among the 7 to 8 people. Who is he? How could he have such an amount of qi at his age? The man did not have time to think. Su Ming had already come close to him within the blink of an eye. His first target was this person. All of it happened in an instant. The two sides clashed together with a loud bang, and the sounds of battle rang through the air, as did voices filled with pain and agony. Su Ming hurled his fist forward. The moment he did so, all 243 blood veins in his body became one and crashed into the man in the 7th level of the blood solidification realm from Black Mountain Tribe. Thunderous sounds echoed in the air, so that sound was like a speck of dust in that intense battlefield. While berserkers fought for their lives, the tribe members who were under the protection of the light from the statue were all trembling with pale faces. Yet, they were all determined, and they did not shrink back. They were afraid, but being afraid did nothing to help them. There was deep-seated hatred and anger that seemed to be able to burn the sky and the earth within their eyes. They were silent. Everyone was silent. The girl who just woke up no longer cried. Instead, she watched Su Ming's back as he fought for the tribe. When he threw his fist forward, his opponent roared and did the same thing. A thunderous clash sounded as their fists met each other. Blood trickled down from the corner of the man's lips. There was a dumbfounded look on his face, and his arm seemed to be on the verge of breaking. As the gigantic amount of power rushed towards him, he retreated on instinct. Yet as he retreated, it made Su Ming howl, and without care for his own pain, he blasted forth with shocking speed and got closer to the man within the blink of an eye, then punched him again, and again. Within the blink of an eye, Su Ming had already thrown 8 punches, and all of them had landed on the man's body. It made him stagger backwards with an aghast expression appearing in his eyes, and a large amount of blood flowing out from his mouth. The man hadn't expected to meet such a mad and powerful berserker in this place. Su Ming closed in on him again. This time, he did not use his fists. Instead, the moment he got closer, he used his head and slammed it against the man's head. The man let out a sharp cry of pain, and his body was pushed back until he crashed into the giant wooden barricade. With a bang, the man coughed out a large amount of fresh blood. He was completely taken aback by Su Ming's speed. There was no time to retaliate. Su Ming, he was too fast. Chapter 89, Funeral Song. Who is he? There's no one in Dark Mountain Tribe who has this level of power at this age. The man coughed out blood as shock appeared on his face. His mind was in a mess, and he cried out in his heart. Yet Su Ming was too quick. The moment the man crashed into the giant wooden barricade, he closed in once again with madness and murderous intent. As he thrust his fist forward, he bit down on his tongue and coughed out a mouthful of blood. When the blood appeared, it turned instantly into blood mist, a clear sign that Su Ming just casted dark blood dust. The moment the art was casted, the mist rushed towards the man. It closed in on the man, who was now in a state of disbelief, and Su Ming's right hand pierced through the blood mist at the fastest speed he could muster and crashed into the man's chest. With a loud bang, the giant wooden barricade trembled. The man widened his eyes, and all light disappeared from within them. A large amount of blood escaped from his mouth. There was a hole in his chest, where Su Ming's fist had blasted through. Kill them! Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. He did not stop once he killed that one person. He turned around and rushed towards the other warriors from Black Mountain Tribe. His fight with the man might have been over in a moment, but all the people from Black Mountain Tribe nearby had seen the entire fight. They could not believe it. They just watched their vice chief of hunters die before their eyes. They did not even manage to follow Su Ming's body, only seeing an afterimage dashing around. It was not just them. The other warriors around Su Ming were also stunned. They knew Su Ming. They were familiar with Su Ming. In their memories, he was just a normal member of their tribe. Previously, they didn't have time to think why Su Ming had stood in the midst of the other berserkers. But at that moment, when Su Ming's strength exploded forth, besides being shocked, they also felt strongly inspired. As Su Ming let out a low growl, the other 7 to 8 warriors from his tribe also roared. Kill them! Kill all those who destroyed our homes! Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. A strong and boundless presence of qi erupted from his body, and he threw a punch. Kill all those who slaughtered our tribe members. One more punch. Kill all those who murdered our people. Another punch. Su Ming's body flickered around dozens of terrified men from Black Mountain Tribe and showed off just how deep he had sunk into his madness. He had never killed so many people before, had never felt so much hate. At that moment, He was no longer a teenager who had yet to reach 17 years of age, but a maddened killer. As fresh blood splashed all over the place, a thunderous sound rang out beside Su Ming's ears, and his heart bled. That was the sound of a tribe member choosing to trigger the explosion of his blood veins because he had sustained too many grave injuries. This was a battle. This was a battle between the invaders and the defenders. This was a crazed battle between two tribes. This was the battle sparked from the hundreds of years of hatred between Dark Mountain Tribe and Black Mountain Tribe that would never end until one of them was completely destroyed. The sudden increase of berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe caused the battle to become so much more intense and tragic. The number of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe was not great. It was less than that of Black Mountain. Yet at that moment, all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe were persistent. They were willing to give up everything to protect their homes, their tribe members, and their tribe. Death was nothing. Fighting for their homes, for their tribe, for their children, and for their parents was the most brilliant moment of their lives. The light from the statue protected the crowd. In the silence, a sob could be heard, and it echoed outwards. The tribesmen were calling out for the warriors. They were crying for those that fought to protect them, their children, their fathers, the berserkers. Mama, why is the sky blue? Is it because Papa is protecting us from above? Papa, why do the stars blink at night? Is it because Mama is there watching us? No one knew who was the first to start mumbling the lyrics, but gradually, almost all the tribe members who were protected by the statue's light started singing amidst the wails and sobs. Their voices mixed together and gradually turned into a low musical wave. The sound was gentle and sad, but within that gentleness and sadness, there was also an indescribable emotion. Those lyrics belonged solely to Dark Mountain Tribe. When someone from their tribe died, their tribe members would gather around the fire and look at their deceased tribe member as they sang the song of mourning. La Su, you are not alone in the sky. Do not be sad. Do not cry. Mama and Papa will look at you from where we are. Every year, every day, we will look at you. I will not cry. I will not be sad. I will not be lonely. I know that you are there, watching me. I am happy. The singing voices gradually grew louder and more distinct amidst the sounds of weeping. When the warriors from Dark Mountain Tribe fighting without fear of death heard the voices of their tribe members and heard the familiar words, sadness appeared on their faces, and they let out depressed growls. They will fight. They will fight until they die. Su Ming trembled. Tears fell from his eyes. His body was covered in fresh blood. Some of it was his own, but the larger part belonged to his enemies. He did not know fatigue, he did not know fear. All he knew was only that he had to fight till he breathed his last. Once he could no longer move, and once his body was too heavily wounded for him to continue fighting, he would trigger his blood veins and self-destruct. Mama. Papa. Pee-pee. From behind, Su Ming heard the wails of the little girl who had woke up. Su Ming's heart clenched in pain. It was bleeding. It was as if a countless number of needles had pierced through his heart. It made his speed increase even more. It made his punches even more powerful. Amidst the sadness and killing, a song filled with tears echoed in the air. The song was filled with desolation, sadness, and separation. Not too far away, Liu Di sat under a tree. His legs were already bloody stumps, and his body was covered in blood. His face was pale, and his eyes dim. He raised the zun made of bone with his trembling hands and placed it by his mouth, and begun to play a tragic song. The moaning sound was like the cry of a mother, and it mixed with the low rumbling song sung by their tribe members on the tragic battlefield, turning it into a song that made hearts clench in grief. The sad moans floated with the wind and melted into the snow on the ground. They sank into the tribe members' blood, causing every single one of them, who heard it, to start crying on the battlefield. Su Ming trembled. This was not the first time he had heard the funeral song, but it was the first time he cried like this. It made him feel as if he lost his heart, turning him into a heartless person. The only thing left behind were the injuries decorating his entire body and the endless sadness he felt. Besides the sorrowful funeral song, Su Ming also heard the sounds of exploding caused by self-destruction. Each boom symbolized another warrior from his tribe choosing to make his blood veins explode. Don't count me out from the road to hell. Su Ming smiled brokenly. He threw another punch outward and blasted another enemy of his tribe into pieces of flesh. Su Ming, too, coughed out a mouthful of blood. As he turned around, he saw his tribe member playing the song underneath the tree before his death. That tribe member's eyes may have been dim, but there was still a hint of light within. He played the song, and the blood on his hands stained the zun made of bone. Nonetheless, it could not dampen his song, his sadness, and his parting words. This was the very last song he would play for his tribe. This time, he played the song with his life. Su Ming closed his eyes and averted his gaze. The moment he did so, his pupils shrank suddenly. He saw, in the other direction, 3 men from Black Mountain Tribe standing before Bei Ling. They forced Bei Ling to continuously retreat with their vicious excitement. Bei Ling's bow was broken. There were a lot of wounds on his body, and especially on his chest. A large amount of blood poured out from the wounds on his chest. His face was pale. In his hands, he held a knife made of bone. There was stubbornness and solemnness in his actions as he madly continued to attack his enemies. He could not retreat. Behind him were his tribe members. Even if his tribe members were protected by the light from the statue, he could not retreat. There was a girl behind him. That girl was crying as she looked at Bei Ling, at his trembling body, and at his back, which stood firm before her like a hill. That girl was Xianxia. She seemed to be shouting something, telling something to Bei Ling. Su Ming was standing far away from them. He could not hear them, but he could tell the gentleness hidden in Xianxia's eyes as she looked at Bei Ling. She liked Bei Ling. At that moment, she became even surer of her feelings. She liked him. Tears fell from her eyes when she saw Bei Ling tremble and one of the 3 men from Black Mountain Tribe approach, laughing viciously. As the bone knife went to Bei Ling's head as quickly as lightning, Xianxia let out a sharp and mournful cry before she rushed forward. Bei Ling smiled brokenly. He was too tired and could no longer continue fighting. Since yesterday, he had been immersed in one battle after another. He knew that he could not avoid the attack. Just as he was about to self-destruct, he looked at Xianxia, who was hugging him. "All right, since you came, then leave with me." Just as Bei Ling closed his eyes and was about to make his blood veins explode, a sudden thunderous roar resounded through the sky and shook their entire surroundings. Every single one of the warriors, including the people from Black Mountain Tribe fighting against them, felt their hearts tremble when they heard the sound, which reverberated and shook the sky and earth. A long red spear rushed towards Bei Ling's direction at an incredible speed. That long spear exuded a powerful murderous intent, and with an avare madness, turned into a giant red eagle that was seen by everyone present on the battlefield. Within the span of a breath, it whizzed past Bei Ling and pierced through the chest of the man from Black Mountain Tribe who was about to swing his knife downwards. With a thunderous boom, the man's body was impaled to the ground. At the same moment, a huge wave of qi erupted forth and spread to their surroundings. The man's body exploded abruptly, turning into pieces of flesh and blood. The other 2 men from Black Mountain Tribe trembled and took a few steps back on instinct as they coughed out blood. At that very moment, a person leapt towards them like lightning and stood before Bei Ling, replacing everything in their sights. The moment he saw the back of the person, a huge wave stirred in Bei Ling's heart. He was familiar with this sight. He experienced this once in Windstream Tribe. There was one person who had stood before him like this. Even if their faces and body shapes were different, at that moment, their bodies overlapped in Bei Ling's eyes. Su Ming. Bei Ling's eyes were filled with disbelief. He stood there, stunned, and he understood everything. Chapter 90. It already happened, so let it go. He knew then that the person who had appeared before him with the same method in Windstream Tribe and fought on equal grounds with Wu Sen was Su Ming. He knew then that the person who had placed his blood that was extracted from the center of his brows in his room when he had returned completely exhausted to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings in Windstream Tribe, whose identity he had kept trying to figure out, was also Su Ming. At that same moment, when he saw Su Ming's back before him, in his dumbfounded state, he also saw the figure of the person who had been the center of everyone's attention when he returned from the first stage of the test. That feeling was so incredibly familiar that he knew that that person was also Su Ming. All these thoughts appeared like thunderbolts in Bei Ling's head. They were like lightning traveling through his mind. It made his body tremble. He did not dare to believe all of it, finding it hard to comprehend how it could be true. Su Ming had, at some unknown point of time, silently obtained such an amount of power that even Bei Ling had to look up to him. In his memories, Su Ming was the one he had always been jealous of, whom he had treated with disdain in his heart, spoken to indifferently, so the change now threw his heart into a state of chaos. That complicated feeling made him forget that he was still in the battlefield, surrounded by slaughter, and everything else around him. His head was completely blank, and he was at a loss. How could this be? Bei Ling mumbled. Qianxia hugged him tightly, tears failing from her eyes. She did not see Su Ming. There was only Bei Ling's pale face before her eyes and the sight of his back standing before her like a mountain. This might seem to have happened slowly, but in truth, the moment Su Ming's spear stirred up the wave of qi on the ground, and the body of the man with the knife exploded, Su Ming took a leap forward. His speed left behind an afterimage that rushed towards the person who was pushed back by the wave of qi. That person was in his 50s, but he was only at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. He only managed to take a few steps back when his vision blurred. His pupils immediately shrank, and he was about to retreat backwards when he felt a strong sense of danger. But Su Ming was just too fast. Before the man managed to retreat, he closed in on him just as a loud booming sound reverberated through the air. There was a vicious expression on Su Ming's face, and it was filled with furious murderous intent. He did not use his fists, but his entire body, and crashed into the man's chest. Rumbling sounds echoed in the air. Blood trickled down the man's lips. His back exploded abruptly, because his body could not bear the incredible force brought by Su Ming's attack. In an instant, all the bones in his body were crushed. His body was thrown to the back, and before he even landed on the ground, he breathed his last. The hate in Su Ming's eyes did not decrease. It only became much stronger. He hated everyone from Black Mountain Tribe. He turned around suddenly and fixed his eyes on the last of the 3 warriors from Black Mountain Tribe who had wanted to kill Bei Ling. He was standing not too far away from Su Ming. That person was sturdy looking, but he was not tall. The vicious smile and excited look he had when he wanted to kill Bei Ling was now gone. That smile was replaced with a horrified look on his face, and his eyes were filled with terror. He could only watch in shock as Su Ming killed a person with a throw of his spear, and then another with his body. The quick and clean kills made the man feel as if Su Ming was surrounded by cruelty and madness. His heart pounded against his chest. When Su Ming turned his eyes towards him, he immediately let loose a terrified scream and retreated without care for anything. He was afraid. In his mind, Su Ming was definitely at the same level as the leaders in Dark Mountain Tribe. This was not someone who he could fight with. Yet before the man could even take 3 steps backwards, a sharp cry cut through the air. An arrow traveled from the distance, seeming to slice through the air. It closed in on the man in an instant and pierced through his neck before sinking into the tree behind him with his blood on its body. The arrow thumped upon contact, causing the tree to jolt. The man held his neck, but blood continued pouring from his wound. His eyes dimmed, and he fell to the ground. His corpse was soon trampled by all the warriors who were still trying to kill those from the opposite tribe. In the distance, the exhausted head of the guards quickly turned his gaze away and continued fighting against the leader from Black Mountain Tribe, who was at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm. Su Ming walked towards Bei Ling and stopped before him, then pulled blood scales out from the ground. Once he managed to free it, something flickered in his eyes. He was about to continue fighting against those from Black Mountain Tribe when he heard Bei Ling's voice, filled with conflict and hesitation, travel into his ears. "Thank you." The voice was caught between the sounds of battle and the moans of the Zun. It sounded weak. Su Ming did not seem to hear it. Once he pulled out his spear, he walked away. Yet, he only took a few steps forward before faltering. It already happened, so let it go. You have to live for Qianxia. Su Ming said, then bounded towards the crowd closest to him fighting against each other. The moment Su Ming sped forward, an aloof look from the barricade far away from him turned towards him. That gaze belonged to a man wearing a sackcloth. He seemed to be in his 40s. His body was incredibly strong and looked like an iron tower. He was covered in fresh blood, but most of it belonged to the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe. The strength of his qi spoke of a man at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm. His power was about the same as Yi Wang's, who had fought against Su Ming some time ago. The moment he looked towards Su Ming, that man lifted his right hand. There was a long knife made of bone in his hand. The moment he swung that knife down, he decapitated a warrior from Dark Mountain Tribe who was fighting against him. That tribe member did not even have time to trigger the explosion of his blood veins. His head was caught by that man, and he threw it towards where he had seen Su Ming. The head fell by Su Ming's feet, blood flowing from the severed neck. The blood dyed the snow red, and the heat from the blood quickly melted the snow into a puddle of blood and water. Su Ming stopped and lifted his head in the direction the head had come from. His eyes met with the others through the crowd, and Su Ming saw the cruelty and aloofness in the man's eyes. The man, too, saw Su Ming's madness and killing intent in his bloodshot eyes. The moment their gazes met, the man moved. He rushed towards Su Ming, just as Su Ming stomped on the ground and charged at the man just as quickly. The man wore a sackcloth, not beast skins, which indicated that his status in Black Mountain Tribe was rather high. If Su Ming could kill that person, then it would definitely deal a heavy blow on Black Mountain Tribe's morale. The moment the man moved, due to his status, it immediately attracted the attention of a lot of people from Black Mountain Tribe who were engaged in battle. It was as if he stirred up their morale, and the warriors let out strange cries as they rushed forward and continued their massacre. The two people closed in on each other, and within an instant, they clashed with a loud bang and engaged each other in an intense battle to the death. Yet at that moment, right in the forefront of the Dark Mountain Tribe, their tribe leader coughed out blood. His face was pale as he staggered back. Before him, more than half of the people from Black Mountain Tribe had died, but a man who wore black robes similar to those the two who had fought against the elder earlier appeared. With an astonishing force, he injured the tribe leader in one move and forced him to move back. The man's, who was dressed in black robes, eyes were blank, but there was a hint of bloodlust within them. He took a large step forward, and behind him, there were two other berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. They rushed towards the retreating tribe leader. By the looks of it, they wanted to kill the injured tribe leader with just one move. The other warriors who fought beside the tribe leader previously had all self-destructed. He was left alone in the front. Just as the tribe leader seemed as if he could not escape from death, and the people behind him let out cries of anger and sadness, one person suddenly rushed out from the crowd. That man was an elderly person. He was Dark Mountain Tribe's Nan Song. The moment he stepped forward, he let out a light sigh and stomped the ground with his right foot. It did not produce a loud sound, but the man in black robes who had attacked the tribe leader and was currently in pursuit of his life trembled suddenly and staggered. As shock appeared on his face, Nan Song walked out before the old man. With his skinny right arm, he swung his fist forward, completely stopping the man's footsteps. These two people engaged in battle right before the tribe. Yet there were two other berserkers by the side of the man dressed in black robes. One of them, who held a big bow in his hands, was the head of the guards from Black Mountain Tribe. This person might have been surprised by Nan Song's appearance, but with the man dressed in black around, he gritted his teeth and continued chasing after Dark Mountain Tribe's tribe leader. There was cruelty and excitement in his eyes. He could already imagine the glory he would gain in the tribe the moment he killed Dark Mountain's tribe leader and obtained his head. The tribe leader smiled brokenly. He was still several dozens of feet away from the crowd, protected by the light of the statue. At that moment, he knew that he could not go back. Nonetheless, there was no regret in his eyes. There was only reluctance. He did not regret dying in battle. He was the tribe leader. Dying in battle for the tribe was a feat of glory. But he did not want to leave them. He did not want to leave the tribe so soon. He had to bring his people to a safe place. Su Ming saw the danger the tribe leader was in, as did many other people. Yet under the vicious assault by Black Mountain Tribe, no one could rush over to help him. After all, the tribe leader's life from Dark Mountain was in question. All the warriors of Black Mountain Tribe started blocking the other warriors' path excitedly, trapping each and every single one of them so that they could not save their tribe leader. Su Ming wanted to rush over, but the man wearing the sackcloth from Black Mountain Tribe sneered coldly, blocking Su Ming's path and causing him to be unable to rush over. He did not even have the chance to throw his long spear. At that moment, when Dark Mountain Tribe's tribe leader could no longer avoid death, dozens of normal teenagers came to the barrier's edge closest to the tribe leader and stood before the crowd whilst under the protection of the statue. These teenagers trembled. They were a useless bunch in the tribe. They did not possess the body of calamity, nor did they have strong bodies. Usually, while the tribe was busy working, they would be hanging around doing nothing because they were the family members of warriors who once died in battle. It made them think that they were somehow privileged, and no matter what they did, as long as they did not betray the tribe, they could live that way forever. They never forgot the glory their families once had, but they did not choose to inherit the responsibility that came with the glory. Instead, they chose to let the protection offered by the glory be an excuse for their laziness and arrogance. Chapters 86 through 90 show us that in a world of cultivators, words can be just as sharp as blades. Su Ming has successfully manipulated the power balance of a city, but the true secrets of Han Mountain are yet to be revealed. Will his identity remain a secret, or will the Grandmaster be forced to show his berserker fangs? Thank you for listening to Pursuit of the Truth on Panda Audiobooks. Which of the 3 tribes do you think Su Ming should trust the least? Let us know in the comments. Join us next time for chapters 91 to 95, as the bell of Han Mountain begins to toll. Like, subscribe, and stay on the path.